In the heart of the Judean desert, where the unforgiving sun scorched the earth, a group of Bedouin shepherds led their flocks across the rugged terrain. It was an ordinary day, just like any other, until an adventurous young shepherd named Muhammad noticed something peculiar, a small opening in the rocky cliffs that he had never seen before. Intrigued, Muhammad's heart raced as he beckoned his fellow shepherds to explore the mysterious crevice with him. Hesitant but curious, they cautiously ventured inside, their flickering torches casting eerie shadows on the cave walls. The air was thick with dust and a hint of mustiness, but what they found within the dark cavern made their hearts pound with excitement. Stacked inside were clay jars, their lids sealed with ancient wax. Eager to see what lay inside, the shepherds carefully opened the jars one by one, revealing something they could scarcely believe. Parchment scrolls, old and fragile, lay nestled inside the jars. Muhammad and his companions stared wide-eyed at these strange artifacts, feeling as though they had stepped into a world long forgotten. The discovery was unlike anything they had ever encountered in their lives as humble shepherds. Word of their find spread quickly, reaching the ears of local authorities and antiquity enthusiasts. The mysterious scrolls soon attracted the attention of archaeologists and historians from around the world. They recognized the potential significance of these ancient writings, and their excitement was palpable as they hurried to the desert cave to witness the marvel themselves. As the news of the astonishing discovery spread, a race against time and nature began. Archaeologists carefully explored the cave and its surroundings, unearthing more clay jars filled with delicate scrolls. Each unopened jar brought a thrill of anticipation. What more could these ancient treasures reveal about the past? The once quiet desert became a hub of activity as experts carefully preserved and transported the delicate scrolls to safer locations. The significance of this discovery was monumental, some of the oldest known written records ever found. The world watched in awe as the shepherds, unwitting heroes of history, had unintentionally stumbled upon what would become one of the most remarkable archaeological finds of all time, the Dead Sea Scrolls. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in the mid-20th century was a groundbreaking archaeological find that shed new light on the ancient biblical texts. The Dead Sea Scrolls include numerous manuscripts that contain various books of the Old Testament. These scrolls were found in the vicinity of the ancient settlement near the Dead Sea, particularly at Qumran. The scrolls date back to the Second Temple period, spanning from around the 3rd century BC to the 1st century AD. Among the scrolls, fragments or complete copies of books such as Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy, Isaiah, Psalms, and others were discovered. Scholars and experts in biblical studies undertook the challenging task of identifying and piecing together these ancient texts. The Dead Sea Scrolls provided a unique opportunity to compare the biblical texts found among them with later manuscripts that had been preserved over the centuries. By analyzing these texts, scholars sought to trace the historical development and evolution of the Old Testament. The comparison aimed to understand the variations, changes, and similarities between the ancient texts and the later versions. Over the centuries, scholars and researchers had proposed critical theories that question the reliability of the biblical text. These theories often revolved around the possibility of textual corruption and deliberate redaction by ancient scribes and editors. Critics argued that various factors, such as theological biases, historical context, or socio-political influences, might have led to intentional alterations in the biblical manuscripts, potentially affecting the accuracy and authenticity of the original texts. So when the Dead Scrolls were found, these critics were excited. Now they could have a look at manuscripts that were up to 1,000 years older than those they previously had access to. What were they expecting? First of all, critics anticipated discovering textual variants and changes within the biblical manuscripts. They believed that over centuries of copying and transmission, the biblical texts might have undergone alterations, additions, or omissions due to errors or deliberate redaction by scribes and editors. Second, they were expecting differences between Hebrew and Greek texts. Prior to the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls, the earliest available Hebrew manuscripts of the Hebrew Bible were from the medieval period. Critics expected that comparing the Hebrew texts found among the Dead Sea Scrolls with the later Greek translations would reveal significant differences, showing the original Hebrew texts were changed over time. Third, Bible critics also speculated that the Dead Sea Scrolls might reveal discrepancies or inconsistencies in the theological themes present in the biblical texts. They believed that different communities or sects might have held varying theological beliefs, and these differences could be reflected in the manuscripts found among the scrolls. Finally, critics expected to find non-canonical writings, apocryphal texts, and other religious literature among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The discovery of such writings could provide insights into the diverse religious beliefs and practices of the ancient Jewish communities in the region. One significant revelation from the comparison was that the Dead Sea Scrolls exhibited remarkable consistency with later biblical manuscripts. Despite the vast time gap between the ancient scrolls and the later copies, there were no significant textual changes that altered the essential content of the biblical texts. This remarkable preservation suggested that the Old Testament had been transmitted with exceptional accuracy over the centuries, safeguarding the integrity of its religious and historical significance. The preservation of the biblical text can be attributed, in part, to the dedicated scribes who meticulously copied and transmitted the scriptures from one generation to another. These skilled individuals were highly trained in the art of copying texts and adhered to strict rules and guidelines to ensure accuracy. The scribes' commitment to their task played a vital role in preventing errors and maintaining the textual purity of the sacred scriptures. In the first millennium AD, the Masoretes, a group of Jewish scholars, took on the responsibility of preserving and transmitting the Hebrew Bible. They meticulously preserved the text, counting every word, letter, and even the spaces between them. The Masoretes' meticulous work culminated in the Masoretic text, a standardized and authoritative version of the Hebrew Bible that remains influential to this day. When comparing the preservation of the Hebrew Bible with other ancient religious texts, the meticulous practices of scribes and the efforts of the Masoretes stand out. While some ancient texts have suffered from substantial changes, additions, and omissions over time, the Hebrew Bible's remarkable consistency is noteworthy. The comparison with other religious texts highlights the exceptional care taken in preserving the biblical scriptures, contributing to its enduring influence and religious significance. It is crucial to address some common misconceptions about the transmission of the Bible. One prevalent myth is that the biblical text has been significantly altered or corrupted over time, leading to doubts about its reliability. However, the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls has provided compelling evidence of the remarkable preservation of the biblical text over the centuries. Some critics have claimed that deliberate changes were made to the biblical text to suit theological or political agendas. However, these claims lack substantial evidence and overlook the rigorous copying practices employed by ancient scribes. The dedicated scribes, motivated by a sense of reverence for the sacred scriptures, meticulously copied the texts and adhered to strict guidelines to minimize errors. The Dead Sea Scrolls have shown that the biblical text's consistency and integrity have been preserved despite minor variations that can be attributed to unintentional mistakes rather than deliberate alterations. Therefore, a strong academic consensus consists regarding the reliability of the biblical text. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls reinforces the belief that the Bible is not merely a human creation but inspired by God. The assurance of an accurately preserved scripture encourages a deepened trust in God's faithfulness to communicate His word to humanity throughout history. This understanding strengthens the conviction that the Bible is a reliable guide for faith, life, and moral conduct. So the shocker for many scholars was this: the Old Testament you read today is exactly the same as the one Jesus read, though, of course, in a different language if you don't read Hebrew. The preservation of a consistent biblical message over millennia is a powerful testament to God's providential care for His Word. In this continuity we see the guiding hand of God, ensuring that His truth endures through the ages. The consistent message of love, redemption, and salvation throughout the Bible reinforces our conviction that the Scriptures form a cohesive narrative that points to Jesus Christ as the central figure of history. This enduring message continues to transform lives and bring hope to believers worldwide.